when I think dirt track racing, I think warm summer nights. I think Thunder Road before it was paved, and I think of another place called Devil's Bowl. So we used to go out there Sunday nights, Devil's Bowl, West Fairhaven. We'd go out there and hang out and watch the dirt track racing, and it was a lot of fun. And so it was a place for us to go hang out with friends, and it always makes me think of warm. You know, it's always summertime to me, and that's what I kind of envision when I think of dirt track racing, hanging out with friends in warm summer nights.
I love dirt track racing. It's a great form of entertainment. I have a lot of friends that race, so I love it. It's exciting. It's a nice outing. I started to race because I love just working on the cars, the camaraderie with all the drivers.
Dirt track racing, what does it mean to me? It's been a goal of mine for years to do well in racing. It's what I wake up every day thinking about. So it's pretty important to me. It's a goal in my life. It's something I know I'm pretty good at. That I don't necessarily always have the funds to back up my ambition, I guess.
It means just more excitement, more challenges to the driver versus asphalt. The track changes drastically throughout the race night. There's a lot more side-by-side, door-to-door racing.
Well, I think, I guess there's a lot of things I like about it. One is I like the fact that kind of anybody can do it to some extent. So, I mean that's a little vague, but it's not, when you get into like the hard tracks, it changes a little bit. So there's something kind of unique and I'd say rural about it. You know what I mean? It's kind of down home in a way like that, and it's also exciting. You know, when the thing about dirt track racing is that when the guys are going around the corner, they're getting squirrely. You know, there's more variability, I guess. It makes it a little more action packed because you go too fast, depending on the track, obviously, but you can get squirrely and more collisions and stuff like that. It's just exciting. I like that about it. So.
Probably that you're sideways more than you're straight.
My favorite part of racing on dirt would be the challenge of the changing track conditions. When you start out at the beginning of a feature and the track is really wet and slick, and then it goes to a tacky condition about midway through, and then towards the end it could be getting dusty and be like black ice where you see rubber down but it's slick and shiny. So you have to tailor the weight in your car and the way your car handles to be fast at the end of the race, not only the beginning of the race.
Pretty much same as the first question, just more of a challenge. Like I said, there's a lot more to set up to the car, so it tends to, over the past few years, has brought in more fans. It seems to survive a lot better than the asphalt track. NASCAR, obviously asphalt, that's the big stage of racing. I would actually honestly like to see more of the dirt track, the World of Outlaws, the Craftsman late models being shown more on television than NASCAR.
Really expensive. That's why I don't race anymore. Yeah, it's really, really expensive. Sponsors help, but it's hard to get sponsors that pay for as much as it takes to race.
I spend every free penny I have. That's a trick question because if I had more, I would spend more. So I put in as much as I can and still pay all my bills first. But any extra that I get, any side work that I get that I can put into my car, I do. I am a thrifty racer. I don't necessarily go out and buy everything new. I spend a lot of time at swap meets and looking at used vehicles and buying complete cars from people who are selling out. I wish I could go out and spend big dollars for brand new motors and brand new equipment, but I don't usually. I usually shop around used or people's secondary stuff.
Very. That's where sponsors are key to be able to offset the costs. Your average guy can't have the big haulers, the stacker trailers, bringing a backup car to the track with them. Most of the guys like myself show up with just your everyday driver pickup with some of your close buddies. You know, a lot of times they say, as a saying is, no brew, no crew. You know, so I mean we feed our pit crew and hamburgers and beer, essentially. We show up with our open trailers, you know, old beat up trailers. Some guys are lucky enough to have enclosed trailers, which is kind of my goal, one of my goals to get to. But like I said, sponsors are a big key to it. Guys that run four cylinders, they're going to look at a lot less costs than a guy that runs a modified or a sprint car or a midget.
My favorite division to watch, actually up at Bear Ridge, is the Coupes. I love the Coupes because I love the history of that division. The modifieds are fun. Probably my favorite division to watch are the sprints, just because of the speed that they carry.
My favorite division would be Northeast Dirt Modifieds. I've raced in the 358 class, I've raced in the budget sportsman class, and I've raced in the sportsman class. I have not raced yet in the big block class, so potentially someday.
Well, I really enjoy late models, even though I'm getting into a coupe this year. Due to the lower car count, I'm not sure where that division was going to be going, so I decided to reinvest towards a coupe than a late model. I mean, they're all fun divisions to watch as long as you got, you know, good side-by-side racing and a good car count. They're fun to watch.
I would always do like a nut bolt check with every part of the car. I would go through every part of the car before I strapped in, just to make sure nothing was going to fall off unexpectedly when I was out there. I would do that. And, you know, the night before I'd go through things. I had like, you know, race day things I would do night before stuff, making sure the trailer, all that stuff was ready.
I don't really have any rituals, but I'm very particular about making sure my car is set up before I leave the shop. At home, I like to set up my car on scales and have another setup with a few adjustments documented. So I take a couple turns of wedge out of the car, I adjust, a radius rod, and I know exactly which direction I'm going. I have a tighter and a looser setup, and I start in the middle. And depending on what the track conditions do, or if they water before I go out on the track, or if the track, I can look out over the track and see it's making dust before I get out there, then I may tighten the car up, or I may loosen the car up, depending on what's going on.
I use the facilities. Last thing I want in the car is, having to use the bathroom and have that as a distraction, or if you get into an accident, have a real big distraction. Other than that, I try to, as I sit in the lineup, I try to just visualize, come up with a game plan of where I'm lined up, who I'm behind, but that can go out the window as soon as a green flag drops. You cannot predict what's going to happen. So pretty much it's just try to focus, try to get my head in the game, almost kind of like an athlete would do before they go out for a game.
Never sneezed, but I did in one of my first races. Was breathing so hard, I was so excited that I steamed up my mask and I couldn't see anything out of it. So that didn't end well because I ended up at the top of the track trying to get my shield open.
I can't ever recall sneezing under green flag conditions. I can remember being at Canaan Speedway in my rookie car, my Nova, and there was an accident in front of me, and I got on the brakes and slowed down, and the person behind me hit me, and my head went forward and hit the cage, the helmet did, and I looked back up, and it's all dark. I can't see anything. My helmet picked up, and I was looking into the mouthpiece of the helmet. So I pulled the helmet back down, and I'm headed down pit road, so I had to cut back across the grass and go out onto the track at Canadian Racing. So that was an interesting moment.
I don't ever recall sneeze during green flag conditions, but it did break wind once, and that was kind of stinky. There's all kinds of little things that can distract you during the race, so you just got to try and keep your head with it.
I've always been interested in racing, but I never thought about it. One of my friends was racing, so I got into it. And my father-in-law, actually, and my wife were really into racing, and they're really who kind of got me going in it. So that was really cool.
Have I always wanted to get into racing? Yes. As a kid, I would ride my bicycle down to Valley Motor Sales, where Al Miller worked on his street stock. So I spent all my free time, all my summers down there, cleaning, changing tires, painting, lettering, organizing to go to the races on Friday night. So that's all I ever did. So I still eat, sleep, and breathe racing all the time.
It always have, but it grew more and more as I got older. Unfortunately, I was, I think, 27 when I finally got into racing. I ran a 4-cylinder car. Then I had to take a 4-year break, unfortunately, and now I'm finally in a position where I can get back into it and hopefully run a full season. But it's not for everybody. A lot of people can sit in the stands and say, oh, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And I've seen people finally get into a car, and then it's, oh, okay, it's a totally different story once you're actually in the car on the track. Anyone can sit in the stands and tell you what you should or shouldn't have done. So it's once you get into the car is when you can really see what goes on.
So this is what the winter months look like for the races. Got the whole takeoff body panels, and usually people wash them, check all parts. If anything needs to be fixed or rebuilt, they'll do it. And if they need to do anything, like if someone buys a car and they need to modify it to fit the person, they'll have to do it.